Welcome to Avonmouth Energy Recovery Facility. This is our operational area induction for all contractors that enter site. All contractors must receive a Viridor induction, which includes 3 elements: the Home Safe Contractor induction video, the Viridor induction overview, which is this presentation. During this video, we'll go through a brief introduction to Viridor, the ERF process and how it works, and any important information at a site level. Once you've watched these videos, you'll be asked to complete the Avonmouth ERF Operational Area Questionnaire before entering site. This induction provides you with instructions and guidance to avoid potential hazards while working at Avonmouth ERF plant. On successful completion of the questionnaire that accompanies this induction, you'll be authorised to carry out work at Avonmouth ERF plant, subject to approved runs. All contractor staff that have been inducted have a duty of care to inform the Avonmouth ERF management team should there be a team member not inducted on site. Permit acceptors will be required to undertake additional training to ensure competency with ERF safety rules. Here's some key information about Viridor. We're one of the UK's leading waste management and renewable energy companies. We've got 12 energy from waste facilities and we process over 3.5 million tonnes of waste per year. In financial year 24, we processed 3.5 million tonnes of waste which was diverted from landfills. We powered 77 Avonmouth ERF is capable of producing 39.2 megawatts of electricity utilising waste. Each year we're permitted to process 427,050 tonnes of waste, and we're capable of supplying 77,000 homes with electricity. Safety is our number one priority. Nothing is so urgent or important that it can't be planned properly and undertaken safely. Home safe means that we all have a responsibility for our own and other people's safety. Please make sure you look out for one another. Whilst working at any Viridor site, there are a number of house rules that everybody must abide to. We always act together to ensure that everybody gets home safe and well every day by following these house rules. All vehicles must reverse park in the car park. Follow the site traffic arrangements, including the speed limit. Know where the emergency exits are and how to raise the alarm. Hold the handrail on the stairs. Wear PPE appropriate to the task. All tasks must be assessed and undertaken by competent, authorised persons. Take pride in the work environment, tidy as you go. And lastly, challenge and report all unsafe acts, conditions or incidents. Here's our site management team at Avonmouth ERF. Our plant manager is Ian Priest. Reese Norris is our operations manager. Ian Price is our engineering and maintenance manager. Eddie Boucher is our safety and compliance manager. And here are our shift team leaders: Tom Watton, Paul Berry, Gary Jenkins, Sam Amolo, Paul Murphy and Darren Brown. All of your work on any visit must be discussed with the duty shift team leader before starting work. Should you need any first aid assistance, we have a number of first aid trained staff on every shift team. Please contact the control room should you need any assistance. Here is a map of the Avonmouth site. Please familiarise yourself with the information. We have 3 automated external defibrillators on site. One is located at the weighbridge, one is located on level 4 in the control room, and the third is located on the ground floor of the boiler room. Our fire muster point is in the main admin building car park. During outages, this may differ, and you'll find the information regarding any changes on the CDM induction. Please listen carefully to the following mandatory site rules. You must sign in and out of the visitor book in reception every time you arrive on site or leave. This includes if you enter or exit the site for lunch breaks. You must have the visitor badge with you at all times whilst on site. This will be given to you at reception when you arrive. You must report to the control room on arrival before starting work or going to your working area. The site speed limit is 9 miles per hour in external areas and 5 miles an hour in internal areas. You must observe the site safety signs and traffic signals. Mandatory minimum PPE in operational areas is a hard hat, high-vis jacket or high-vis waistcoat with long-sleeve top underneath, safety boots, safety glasses and gloves. If you're entering the boiler, this requires a minimum of an FFP3 mask. Your individual task or area of work may require additional PPE as per signage and follow your RAMs. PPE is required in all operational areas. The only areas that do not require PPE are the offices, the car park, and the singular walkway to the contractor's cabin.
At Avonmouth, we operate a no-smoking site except in the designated smoking areas. This is located at the front of the car park. Please ask if you are unsure. There are no mobile phones to be used in plant areas unless authorised by Avonmouth ERF staff or if there is an emergency. There's no photography allowed without the express permission of Avonmouth ERF staff. We operate a yellow and a red card system. Any person behaving improperly will be removed from site immediately. CCTV operates and records on site, inside and outside, and is used for safety and security purposes. All incidents and near misses are reported, no matter how minor. Contractors shall conduct all work activities on site in accordance with the Avonmouth ERF site safety rules and shall also comply with all relevant UK health and safety legislation. Contractors shall provide Avonmouth ERF with all relevant documentation, which includes certificates of competency, risk assessments, method statements, insurance documents, and certification for lifting equipment. Contractors shall adopt the Avonmouth ERF requirements to ensure the protection of people, plant, and environment. Note: checks of the work areas and compliance with your risk assessments and method statements and other associated documents may be checked whilst you're working at Avonmouth ERF. Before any work can start on site, the contractor shall issue the correct risk assessments and method statements a minimum of 36 hours in advance to Avonmouth ERF and have them accepted. They must provide a competent person to accepting the permit for work in a role of competent person or nominated supervisor following training. This person shall communicate all relevant information to the working party prior to work commencement. The acceptor of the permit will be in charge of the working party. The acceptor of the permit shall be on site at all times while the work is being carried out. The acceptor of the permit must be in possession of the correct safety documents at all times unless they're stored in a card safe as determined by the on-duty SAP whilst the work is being carried out. A blank point of work risk assessment card will be provided and must be completed each day or work period and kept within the permit. If anything changes during the task or an additional hazard arises, please stop work and reassess. The reverse of the para, the dynamic risk assessment, is to be used as applicable. General safety. All supervisors of a working party or a worker working on their own are responsible for general safety. This applies to Viridor employees or contractors. General safety can be defined as the provision of a safe access to and from the place of work, a safe place of work, safe methods of work, and the use of correct work equipment and PPE. This includes but is not limited to a safe method of work, a point of work risk assessment, which we call a POWER, tools, which include the correct tools and equipment and being ensured that they are used correctly, access, so safe access and egress, including such as MEPs and scaffolding, the correct method for the job location, the correct PPE for the task, but please ensure that you consider COSH requirements where applicable, and the area, so are there barriers, are there signage, i.e. are there hotworks or mandatory hearing signs required because of the job. This includes the effect that the work may have on other persons in the working areas. Ensure that you think areas around, above and below your work area. You're the responsible for the effect that your work may have on these and people in them. Tools and equipment. Any equipment brought to the site must be in good condition and have valid test certificates where applicable. Tools and equipment and spares will not be lent out to contractors. You must provide your own. The only power tools permitted on site are those operated by air, batteries or 110 volts. All electrical power tools and leads must be pat tested before being brought onto site. Their use will be authorised by Avonmouth ERF. Diesel-powered compressors and generators must be equipped with oil or diesel spillage containment and shall not be used in confined spaces. Petrol-powered equipment is not permitted on site. Anything above 85 decibels, hearing protection is mandatory on site. You'll be informed of the areas that this applies to by signage within the area. Areas include the turbine hall and in and around the wrapping system. Noise-induced hearing loss will affect you later in life if you're consistently exposed to high noise levels in either your working or your social life. It doesn't hurt and it only affects you in later years. If your work creates additional noise, please speak to the shift team leader so that temporary controls and signage can be instigated. Whilst working on site, there are a number of hazards at the Avonmouth ERF, which include, but are not limited, to chemical hazards, electrical, pressurised systems, hot systems including steam, traffic movements, which include forklift trucks, HGVs and loading shuttles, confined spaces, working at height, and ASER or ATEX zones. Hot works requires specific permits due to the fire alarm and automatic sprinkler system. No hot works can be completed without a hot work permit. The supervisor of each working group, or a single person if you're working alone, must have also completed the permit acceptor training. Please see this permit office for more information. If you're undertaking any welding activities on site, you must comply with HSE requirements and put in control measures in place, which include PPE, RPE and LEV. Consideration must be given to others working in the area. Cost assessments must be in place for all welding activities. Working at height is prohibited unless compliant with working at height regulations. This includes provisions to prevent dropped objects. All activities should be carried out from floor level or a suitable safe system of work with a rescue plan agreed. This will be part of the risk assessment and method statement produced before the commencement of any work. All access equipment must be used correctly. Behaviour like the below will not be tolerated. Ladders must be inspected by a competent person and provided with an inspection tag indicating the next inspection due date. Each user must visually inspect the ladder before use. Every other option should be explored before a ladder is used. The use of a ladder must be part of the approved risk assessment and method statement. Only one user is allowed on a ladder. Always have 3 points of contact. When not in use, all ladders must be kept correctly stored on racks or other suitable storage location. Scaffolding. All scaffolding must be erected, maintained and inspected in strict accordance with current legislation and only by competent authorised personnel. Before use of scaffolding, inspect it visually to ensure that it has a valid inspection tag, which is a maximum of 7 days old. It has any loose or missing boards. It has insecure or missing guardrails, proper access, secured wheel locks. Ensure that there are no other defects and do not overload the scaffold. If in doubt, check the tag or ask. You must never modify or tamper with scaffolding. If you require scaffold modifications, notify your vehicle contact. If the scaffold is erected in a walkway, it must be clearly identifiable and have the screw covers and end caps as necessary. In case of any defects, report immediately to your responsible person and do not use the scaffold. Falling objects. If you're carrying out work at height from a mute, a scaffold, or where there is potential for the tool to fall to the levels below, lanyards must be used. Furthermore, loose items such as bolts, welding consumables, and other items should be contained using buckets, plastic containers, or bags when working in areas that there is a potential for these items to fall on pedestrian areas. Other items such as brushes, ladders, shovels are to be located in a manner where there isn't a risk of the item falling to pedestrian areas below. The site has many areas that are demarcated as a confined space. Follow the signage next to the entry points. The most common confined spaces on our site are the furnace and grate, the boiler outlet duct, the under the furnace grate, the boiler drum, GA, condensate tank and all other tanks, the FGT inlet duct, the horizontal pass, all the sections, and the second pass. Others are dependent on any additional work. You must not enter a confined space without the correct training. Our minimum level of standard of training is the Confined Space Medium Risk by City and Guilds. and certification, equipment and permit. You must log in at the entrance with the entry controller. If you intend to bring chemicals onto site, you must provide a copy of the COSH assessment and MSDS before starting work. A COSH assessment takes the information from the MSDS and the information about how you're going to use the substance, in what situation, and makes an assessment of the risk and controls required. Remember, chemicals are not just the obvious but include gases, cleaning products, lubricants and sprays. Make sure that you know about the chemical that you're dealing with and if there are any additional PPE requirements. Avoid contact with chemicals. Gas cylinders must be stored upright and secured in an adequately ventilated area, away from external sources of ignition. Flashback arresters and regulators must be fitted and valve keys must be available at the cylinder. Cylinders are not permitted in any confined spaces. Avonmouth ERF must be informed before any gas cylinders are brought to the site, and a list of cylinders plus their location must be given to the Avonmouth nominated person before work commences. If gas cylinders are left on site after use or for the end of the day for works, they must be stored in an appropriate location outside of the building, and location confirmed to the Avonmouth duty shift team leader. DSEER stands for Dangerous Substances and Explosive Atmosphere Regulations 2002. It is a UK law that requires employers to assess and control the risks from the dangerous substances that could cause fire, explosion or metal corrosion in the workplace. On site, we have a couple of areas that are included within these regulations. The power-acted silo, so the internal, the manhole, the safety valve on top of the silo roof, the silo filter, which includes the dirty and clean air side, the transformer from the truck, the hopper and the dosing screws. A hydrogen gas bottle area, the SEMS unit, is also a DSEER ATEX zone. Areas of potential zoning, if interfered with, are the maintenance of work on specific systems, for example, diesel lines. Should you be working within any of these areas, additional control measures must be stated within your RAMs. If you have any questions, please reach out to any member of the ERF management team. While working on site, be aware that the plant and equipment could be live and operational. Do not deviate from the work listed in your RAMs and permit. Do not cross or remove any barrier without approval from the permit office or instruction and approval on the permit for work. Ensure that you are aware of other activities going on in your work area. You should consider these when completing a point of work risk assessment, or POWER as it's commonly called. Be aware of plant operation vehicles within the plant areas and stick to pedestrian walkways. If you'll be using a Viridel forklift for the works, you must provide evidence of competency and sign up to the Avonmouth forklift procedure and traffic management arrangements prior to use. Follow the instruction or guidance of all signage on site. There are 4 standard symbol types. Prohibition signage. These are red and black on white, usually in a circle. They tell you something you cannot do within an area. Warning signage is yellow and black triangle. It alerts you of a hazard within the area. Mandatory signage is blue and white, usually a circle. It tells you of an instruction, often for PPE, that you must do within an area. Safe condition signage is green and white, a bar or a square. This alerts you of safe conditions, so for example, where a fire exit is, a spill kit, an eye wash. Many also contain text confirming the meaning or giving extra information. The site emergency number for fire, first aid or spillage is 0117 982 0781. Please ensure you save this into your phone so you have the number in case there is an emergency. This is the control room, who are responsible to contact the emergency service if required. If a defibrillator is required, inform the control room immediately. There is one situated in the control room, one in the weighbridge, and one on the ground floor of the boiler hall. If you discover a fire, use a break glass to sound the alarm and inform the control room immediately. On hearing the evacuation alarm, which is continuous klaxon, you must proceed to the muster point in front of the car park. Make sure that you have been accounted for by the roll caller. You'll only be allowed back into your work area when the all clear has been given by a member of the Avonmouth staff. Do not leave the site unless instructed to do so by an Avonmouth ERF staff. The fire alarm test is 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Emergency showers and eye wash facilities are available at chemical unloading points. Defibrillators, as stated, are located on level 4 in the control room, at the weighbridge, and in the boiler hall on the ground floor. Spill kits are located adjacent to chemical and oil unloading points. All spillages must be reported immediately to a member of the Avonmouth ERF personnel. Fire extinguishers are located at various points around site. Do not take extinguishers from these locations. If you require an extinguisher for hot works, speak to your Viridor contact. Remember, it's against the law to misuse any safety equipment. Reporting observations, incidents and accidents. Treatment of the injured person is always the first priority. All injuries that occur on site must be reported when they occur before you leave the site. An incident report is to be completed with an Avonmouth ERF employee. This must be submitted to the Avonmouth ERF contact who has arranged for the work to be undertaken. Near misses are to be reported at all times to the nominated person, as this helps the management team to improve the health and safety here at Avonmouth ERF. Please report any other safety observations with our QR code. Potential hazards that look for are slips, trips or falls, manual handling, fire or explosion, access or working at height, pedestrians or vehicles, lifting or slinging, housekeeping, PPE, kosh or chemical waste, unsuitable equipment or unavailable, dust, lighting or physical layout. You can find a QR code dotted around the site. These are also found in all welfare areas. Alcohol or drugs are not allowed on site at any time. Anyone suspected to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs will be asked to leave the site immediately. Viridor operate a random screening program. You may be required to undergo a drugs and alcohol test when on site. Failure to provide a sample will result in you being removed from site. If you're taking drugs for medical reasons, please inform your supervisor. Viridor operates a zero-tolerance attitude to alcohol and drugs. All waste generated must be managed in accordance with environmental laws and site procedures. You should reduce, reuse and recycle and reclaim waste products and packaging where possible. Contractors should provide their own skips for waste disposal unless agreed in advance with Viridor. The Site Safety and Compliance Manager shall receive a copy of the waste transfer note for the removal of all waste from site. Waste can either be hazardous or non-hazardous. For example, hazardous waste must be disposed of using special licenses. Under no circumstances should hazardous waste be placed in an ordinary bin. Examples of non-hazardous waste would be paper or cardboard, most plastics and metals. Examples of hazardous materials would be oily rags and waste oil, electrical or electronic equipment, and chemicals, paints and solvents. Should you have any hazardous waste, please ensure that they are correctly disposed of. Avonmouth ERF operates under an environmental permit which is regulated by the Environment Agency. The significant ways in which Avonmouth ERF can potentially impact the environment is through emissions to atmosphere, incorrect waste disposal, odour from waste activities, or noise from plant and loss of containment. Avonmouth ERF have a management system in place to control these and other potential sources of pollution. All contractors must comply with Avonmouth ERF procedures and all relevant environmental legislation whilst on site. If your work may affect the site permit compliance, then you must discuss this in detail with the duty shifting leader before starting work. Avonmouth ERF is not permitted to dispose of liquid waste and spills into drainage systems. Any contractor found putting liquid or material, including water, into a drain will be removed from site and not permitted to return. Avonmouth ERF reserves the right to take legal action against any contractor who permits liquid to enter any drainage system or soak away on site. All liquid waste generated from contractors' actions must be removed from site unless prior agreement has been given in writing by the Avonmouth Safety and Compliance Manager. This site accepts a range of non-hazardous municipal waste. Avonmouth ERF has contract in place to control the pests, including rats. However, waste may have also been exposed before arrival at site.
Wear protective clothing. Wash your hands after working on site and always before eating, drinking or smoking. Leptospirosis, or Wales disease as it's more commonly known, is a serious and sometimes fatal infection that is transmitted to humans by contact with urine from infected rats. The disease starts with a flu-like illness with a persistent and severe headache which can lead to vomiting and muscle pain, and ultimately to jaundice, meningitis or kidney failure. In rare cases, the disease can be fatal, so please ensure that you're carrying out good hygiene practices. Housekeeping has the potential to be one of the biggest issues at Avonmouth ERF if we don't get it right from the start. Keep your point of work clean and tidy. Keep walkways clear and emergency escapes clear. Don't rely on others to tidy up after you. Good housekeeping helps prevent accidents. Put all litter in the bins provided. Gas cylinders must be stored upright and in a secured and adequate ventilated area away from external sources of ignition. Maintain clear access to fire and safety equipment at all times. Do not cause trip hazards with cables and hoses. Please ensure that these are redirected. Contractors will not be signed off as completing the job until the work area has been cleared and returned to the safe state it was before they commenced work. Housekeeping is everybody's responsibility and it prevents accidents, so please ensure that you are complying with our site standards. On our site, we use a red and a yellow card system. Below are some examples of acts that could lead to yellow or red cards being issued. Horseplay will not be tolerated. Anyone found to be behaving recklessly may be asked to leave site. Poor behaviour or housekeeping that endangers others will not be tolerated and can result in a yellow card or removal from site if serious or repeat offenders. Remember, we have a duty to look after each other. Please think how your acts and omissions could impact others working on site. As Viridal staff, we will carry out regular site inspections. Any unsafe working or acts that will be dealt with by the ERF staff immediately to ensure that we are ensuring all staff can stay safe whilst at work. Finally, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today, and please remember that if you're unsure about anything, you must ask. There's no such thing as a silly question, and never assume. Please reach out to any member of the Viridal team if you have any questions about the context within this slide pack. Let's ensure that everybody gets home safe.